Surveys from Canada and Sweden that were recently published in the journal JAMA Surgery found that female surgeons had fewer complications and better long-term outcomes than male surgeons. Quite the talker. Joining us now to discuss these results are board-certified plastic surgeons. We have Dr. Danielle DeLuca-Pytel and also Dr. Lindsay Gold, who offers a comprehensive breast care and is also an assistant professor of surgery at Oakland University. Thank you both so much for being with us.
Thank you.
I think the obvious first question, can you summarize the key points of this very interesting survey? And in your field, what has the reaction been?
Well, I'm going to start with the second part. The reaction has been very positive.
Okay.
The key points of the study are that they looked at over 1 million people in Canada. They looked backwards, retrospectively, and they looked at outcomes 90 days and a year after surgery. There had already been a study that showed 30 days post-surgery, female surgeons' patients had fewer complications. This longer-term look shows that there were less long-term complications, less readmissions, less complications, and less deaths. So the interesting thing about this is, what makes it different for patients of female or male surgeons, that there are these significant outcomes in their postoperative care.
Yeah, thank you for sharing what some of the criteria was to that study, because I think that's an important key component. Male surgeons obviously are not bad. So what are the takeaways from this? Why do we think that there was some consistency here?
Yeah, there's some differences. There was, 1 million males, million patients for the male surgeons, 151,000 for the females. So there's a lot more males than there are females, right? And females were a little bit younger in the study. But we think that some of the differences are due to perhaps communication style. I mean, women tend to communicate better. They have different relationships with their patients. Some of it could be due to patient selection and difficulty of cases. So it's hard to drill down on those things in a study like this, but we need to look at that a little bit more.
And being in this field, what would one of you say, will we see a shift? Will this change any sort of communication between patients and surgeons in the future? What are the implications?
I think that what would be really great is to figure out what are those differences between the female and male surgeons. Either it is patient selection, communication. Can we pull those things out by doing maybe a different study, looking at maybe how long a surgeon talks to a patient before surgery, or what criteria they use to select who goes to surgery, and pull those things out, because there's no question that surgery is a male-dominated field, but more women are entering the field, and we bring something different to the table. It's also showing that with these good outcomes, we need to be teaching our students and residents what those differences are. We need to learn from each other, and then also there is not equity in the way that female surgeons are generally paid or promoted within the medical system, especially within academics. So that's something else that needs to be looked at.
A couple of key takeaways there. In your opinion, do more studies need to be done on this, or what is next?
Yeah, definitely more studies need to be done. I think one of the big things we should look at is, the medical schools graduate 50% women, 50% men, but yet women in the surgical field are still significantly smaller population. So the institutions need to learn how to support the women and retain them and draw them into surgery, because like Dr. DeLuca-Pytel said, it is still a very male-dominated field, and there's little support institution-wise for females. So we need to retain them and support them in any way we can.
I love that, pulling the strengths from certain people, what applies, and then also that equitable pay. We thank you both so much for being on with us this evening. Doctors Danielle DeLuca-Pytel and Lindsay Gold, we hope to see you again soon.
Thank you so much.